Welcome to Simply Debbie Sue's Southern Whispers. Step into a world where front porches hold secrets, faith carries folks through the hardest days, and the mountains whisper stories only the heart can hear. I invite you into tender moments, gentle humor, and the kind of Southern warmth that feels just like home. Welcome back, friends, to another Friday and another Southern Whisper story. This story feels kind of special to me, and I hope after you listen to it, you feel the same way. So let's get right into the introduction. Sometimes stories slip in soft as dusk, settling on the hearth like a warm quilt. Here in the mountains of Virginia, we know that a porch light can mean more than just finding your way up the steps. It can mean welcome home. It can mean I'm still here. It can mean you're not alone in this world. And for Mr. Clay Whitaker, that porch light became a promise, one he kept faithfully for a little raccoon named Junebug. This week's story is called Clay and Junebug. Mr. Clay had lived long enough to see the world change 3 times over. His house sat on a rise overlooking a patch of woods that whispered when the wind blew just right. The porch boards were worn smooth by decades of boots, Sunday shoes, and Maggie's gentle footsteps. After she passed, the house felt too big, too quiet, too hollow. He still talked to her sometimes, especially in the evenings when the sky turned lavender and the cicadas turned up their choir. It was on one of those storm-heavy nights, the kind where lightning cracks the sky open, that he first heard the scratching at the front door. He opened it, expecting a stray cat, or maybe a possum, but instead found a tiny raccoon, soaked to the bone, trembling like a leaf in a hurricane. "Well now," Clay whispered, crouching down slow, "ain't you a sight?" He fetched a towel, warmed a biscuit in the oven, and set it out like he was hosting company. The raccoon devoured the biscuit, then curled right up on the towel like she had been waiting her whole life for a safe place to land. From that night on, she came back. Every evening, same time, same soft chitter. Amos named her Junebug because she lit up his lonely nights the way Junebugs light up a summer yard. As the seasons turned, the routine became sacred. Clay would shuffle out to the porch, flip on the light, and settle into Maggie's rocking chair. Junebug would appear from the woods, sometimes bold, sometimes shy, always with those bright, curious eyes. She started bringing him treasures, little things she'd found on her nightly wanderings. A button that looked like it belonged on a soldier's coat, a bottle cap from a soda brand Amos hadn't seen in years, a chipped marble that caught the porch light just right. Clay kept every single one in an old cigar box. "Maggie," he'd say softly, "look what Junebug brought today." Folks in town worried about him. He's too old to be out there by himself. He needs someone checking in. He's slowing down more every month. But Clay would just smile and say, "I've got company. She just happens to have a ringtail." One mild afternoon, a neighbor, Miss Clara May Hensley, stopped by with a basket of cornbread and apple butter. Clara May was one of those women who always smelled faintly of lavender and kept her hair pinned up tight enough to survive a windstorm. She'd known Clay and Maggie since they were newlyweds. She stepped into the porch and found Clay rocking gently, humming an old hymn while Junebug sat at his feet, washing her paws like she owned the place. "Well, I'll be," Clara May said, hands on her hips. "Clay Whitaker, you've gone and adopted yourself a raccoon." Clay chuckled. "I didn't adopt her. She adopted me." Junebug looked up at Clara May, chittered once, then waddled over and sniffed the basket. "Don't you even think about it," Clara May warned, wagging a finger. "This is for Clay." Clay grinned. "She's just saying hello." Clara May eased down onto the porch step. "You know, folks in town worry about you out here by yourself." "I'm fine," Clay said gently. "Got my routines, got my memories, got Junebug." Clara May studied him for a long moment, her eyes softening. "I know you miss Maggie. We all do. But I'm glad you got, well, whatever that is." She nodded towards Junebug, who was now trying to pry open the apple butter jar with surprisingly determination. Clay laughed, a sound Clara May hadn't heard from him in a long while. "She keeps me company, brings me little gifts, makes the evenings feel less empty." Clara May patted his hand. "Then she's a blessing, and blessings don't always come the way we expect." As she stood to leave, she paused at the bottom step. "You keep that porch light on, Clay. You hear? For her and for us." "I will," he promised. And he did. Then came the winter that hit harder than most. Clay caught a fever that clung to him like burrs on a pant leg. He grew weak, too weak to make it to the porch. The light stayed off for the first time in years. Junebug stopped coming. The porch felt empty. The nights felt longer. The house felt colder. Clay laid in bed, stared at the ceiling, whispering, "Don't give up on me, girl. I'm still here." One evening, after a long nap that left him shaky but determined, Clay pulled himself up, wrapped a quilt around his shoulders, and made his slow way to the porch. His hands trembled as he flipped the switch, but the port light glowed warm and steady. He sank into Maggie's chair and closed his eyes. Minutes passed, then a rustle, a soft chitter, a familiar presence. Junebug stepped into the light, but she wasn't alone. Behind her came a whole little family, 3 young raccoons and another adult, all paddling up the steps like they'd been invited to Sunday supper. Junebug approached Clay and placed something gently at his feet, a smooth river stone, shaped like a heart. Clay felt tears spill before he could stop them. "Well, sweetheart," he whispered, voice crackling, "you brought the whole crew." The raccoons gathered around him, quiet and watchful, as if keeping vigil. Clay felt something warm settle deep in his chest, a reminder that God's comfort doesn't always arrive in the ways we expect. Sometimes it comes on tiny paws, carrying a heart-shaped stone. From that night on, the porch light stayed on again, and Junebug never missed another evening. So the reflection of this week's story is, there's a holy tenderness in the way God sends companionship, not always through people, not always through words, sometimes through a creature who simply shows up, night after night, carrying reminders that love still finds its way. Mr. Clay thought he was caring for Junebug, but all along Junebug was carrying him through the quiet aches of loneliness. That porch light became a symbol of hope, of welcome, of God's gentle promise that we are never truly forgotten. Sometimes the comfort we pray for doesn't knock on the door. Sometimes it pads softly up the steps and sits beside us under the warm glow of a porch light. I hope you enjoyed that story this week. Come back next week for another one. May these stories that I have written wrap around you like a well-loved quilt. May they remind you that God is near, hope is steady, and joy often comes softly, like a whisper on a southern breeze.